Welcome to White Regis TV Film Review and Preview. I'm Andrew Wright. This weekend, the Marvel Comics film Kraven the Hunter is released in cinemas. The film is the sixth film in Sony's Spider-Man universe, and the third one released this year. Stars Aaron Taylor Johnson as Sergei Kravenov, a big game hunter who has a complex relationship with his father, which sets him on a path of vengeance and motivates him to become the greatest and most feared hunter the world has ever known. The film also stars Ariana DeBose and Russell Crowe. As the film is connected to Spider-Man, as Kraven is a Spider-Man villain from the comics, there are also some other Spider-Man related characters from the comics, including famous Spider-Man villains Calypso, Chameleon, and Rhino, and this Chameleon is Sergei's half-brother, I believe, and I believe Rhino is a metahuman. I can't remember what I can't remember what the Marvel equivalent of metahumans are. He's not a mutant, but he's a metahuman, but it's not a mutant. And Rhino was previously played by Paul Giamatti in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was when Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man. So far, the film has received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics, similar to Morbius and Madam Web. There have been some positive takeaways, like Aaron Taylor Johnson's performance and the action scenes, but it seems that the negative reviews are so overwhelming that's being drowned out. And this film is expected to be the final film in Sony's Spider-Man universe for now, due to the commercial failures of Morbius and Madam Web, as well as the fact that the critics haven't liked any of the Sony Spider-Man related films like Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, even though fans really like the Venom films. And plus Spider-Man 4 is coming up, so they want to focus on working with Marvel Studios on that. Kraven the Hunter is in cinemas this weekend. Also released this weekend is The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim, an anime adaptation of the appendices of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Ring books. The film is set 183 years before Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films, and revolves around Helm Hammerhead, a legendary king of Rohan, and namesake of the stronghold Helm's Deep, as him and his family defend their kingdom against an army of Dunderlings, either Dunderlings or Dungerlings. I've got Dungerlings in my notes. The English dub of the film stars Brian Cox as Helm, and Miranda Otto as Eowyn, a future Shield Maiden of Rohan, reprising her role from The Two Towers and Return of the King. The film is an anime film because it has Japanese production elements. They were heavily involved in producing the animation. It's directed by a Japanese director, Kenji Kamiyama, who has famously directed the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex anime. And the production company which handled the animation has worked on the anime adaptations of Korean manhwa Tower of God and The God of High School. The film so far has mixed reviews from critics. It's pretty much a 50-50 split down the middle, but it's leaning more towards the positive. But you can view it knowing that it is an hour shorter than any of the Lord of the Rings films. The Lord of the Rings films each are about 3 hours long, but this one is about 2 hours 15. So Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim is in cinemas this weekend. This week, Transformers 1 was released on home video. The film is an animated prequel story and revolves around the origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron from their early days as brothers in arms in the mines of Cybertron to the eventual mortal enemies as their respective leaders of Autobots and Decepticons. The film stars Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry as Optimus and Megatron, alongside Scarlett Johansson, Lawrence Fishburne, and John Hamm. The film was well received by critics and audiences, but it underperformed at the box office, which has led Hasbro to pull out of financing any future adaptations of their products or IP. So this is my first time watching the film. I have to admit, I didn't go in with an open mind. The trailer was bad. The trailer did not sell me on it, but I was told it was just because the film ran a bad marketing campaign, but audiences loved it. But I just thought the film was completely cartoonish and buffoonish. And you just couldn't recognize. Normally in prequels, you expect, even at, like, say, X-Men First Class, you see the like James McAvoy's Charles Xavier or Michael Fassbender's Magneto. You see glimpses of who those characters are in the non-prequel films, like, Patrick Stewart or Ian McKellen. You see glimpses of those characters in them, like you can recognize them as those characters. But in this, any of, like, Bumblebee, Elita 1, Megatron, Optimus, you cannot recognize any of those characters as just in how they act, as who they become in the future. And Chris Hemsworth was completely unable to step into the shoes of Peter Cullen's iconic character. He just didn't have the gravitas. He couldn't bring any gravitas to the role, and the fact that he couldn't hold he was struggling to hold his American accent didn't help. So I gave the film 2 stars out of 5. Also released on home video this week is Hellboy: The Crooked Man, a second reboot of the live-action Hellboy films, and the 4th adaptation of the Hellboy comics. This time, the film stars Jack Kesy as Hellboy, a demon raised by humans as an agent for the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. The film also stars Jefferson White and Adelaine Rudolph. The film is set in 1959, no idea why, and revolves around BPRD agents Hellboy and Bobby Joe Song as they get stranded in the Appalachian Mountains and find themselves defending a local man against an obsessed witch and a supernatural entity known as the Crooked Man. So I watched this film for the first time, and I thought the gothic horror angle was ambitious, but it worked, but it was more geared for hardcore fans of the comics, which I've never actually read the Hellboy comics. I've seen the Ron Perlman movies and the David Harbour movie. But that's it. I have one of the comic runs, but I have the Wild Hunt on Nimbus, but I've not read it. This film, as a film, is a bit too clunky, bad CGI, lackluster performances, which means this is another dud in the Hellboy franchise. It was released straight to video on demand in the US, so didn't really get much traction at any international box office, and didn't have great critic reviews. I give the film 2 stars out of 5. That was my own personal review, 2 stars out of 5. Speaking of another one that failed at the box office and was not popular with critics, this week, Christmas action film Red One arrived on Amazon Prime Video just 1 month after it was released in cinemas. The film stars Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, Kiernan Shipka, and J.K. Simmons, and revolves around Johnson's Callum Drift, the head of North Pole Security, as he teams up with Evans' Jack O'Malley to find Simmons' kidnapped Santa Claus. Yeah, it's a bit of a... the film was as I said, the film was a box office flop, received negative reviews from critics, and I believe I talked, when it came out in the cinema, I talked about on here that it was tainted by controversy surrounding Dwayne Johnson, around his professional conduct. But the audiences that saw the film enjoyed it. This was the first time I watched it. I hadn't seen it in cinema. I watched it on Prime Video, and I thought it was definitely a good fun Christmas film, if not a little cheesy and cringy. And J.K. Simmons is the Santa we never knew we needed. I mean, remember seeing Violent Night when David Harbour is Santa, and that was pretty. That was like another Santa we didn't know we needed. But J.K. Simmons as Santa was it's quite a bit off the rails. So yeah, I gave Red One 3.5 stars out of 5. There's not really in depth you need to talk about. It's just one of those where it's audience popcorn. It's just one for audiences to enjoy. It's not perfect, but it's fun. That's all I can say. That's all I have for this week, but be sure to check back next week where I'll be talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Mufasa the Lion King, and Joker Folie à Deux. It's the home video release of that. So now back to Gary in the studio.